Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Masked Monologues. Today, I have with me Tamara, and she is a life coach. She's done a lot of traveling, and from what I have noticed, she does a little bit of poetry. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, that was really good. So I appreciate that. I am a world traveler and I'm also really into astrology. For me, that side of Sagittarius comes out a lot. Astrology, traveling, learning, and exploring, like trying new things. So because of that, I end up trying so many different things. I've done free diving, I've done art, I've done poetry, skateboarding, snowboarding. Like I'm just kind of someone who I like to dive in and just try new things.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do with your life coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really a passion of mine since I've had a background in social work and having been able to travel, I was actually researching wellness, happiness, and how people are able to connect. So in my life coaching, I do one-on-one sessions with people where I hold space so that they are able to explore for themselves their life and new aspects and where they want to grow. And then what's really cool is I love to do groups and group events where people get together and we explore astrology as well as tarot cards, sometimes art, creative aspects, anything that helps freeing the self and freeing the soul. So I've also done like some improv. I love to do jam sessions too.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your traveling and how that's influenced your life coaching. Have you noticed that different cultures have different practices, and has that influenced how you coach people?
Absolutely. So when I first started traveling, I went to Spain and I ended up staying at different hostels. I ended up doing the Camino de Santiago, which is like ended up being 40-day walk through Spain. And during that time, I was just actually reading a book called New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, if anyone's heard of it. And that was something that helped me deepen my spirituality, which what I've learned through traveling through my 2 years and staying in Buddhist monasteries is having this mix of self acceptance and non attachment to certain outcomes, while at the same time connecting with the spirit, connecting with the human nature. That sometimes it can be the simplest things, right? Sometimes it can be just watching the clouds, watching the stars, it can be playing music with your friends. And how can we have that balance in our lives? Yeah. And then I ended up in Bali for some time in Thailand. So I was able to also connect with a lot of people who are doing really different things and thinking of creative ways and building a life that allows us to connect with our very simple human nature.
As creatives, I feel as though we're always attached to outcomes. We're always looking at how can our art be better? How can we improve this? What is the outcome going to be? And that you mentioned in Buddhist practices, it's not about the outcome. Can you tell us a bit more about how that can apply to art and creating?
Yeah, absolutely. So I apply this a lot in my art as well. This non-attachment and this ability to find beauty in everything sort of thing. So I actually think it has a lot to do with abstract art and surrealism, which sometimes I tend to lean into. And I actually went to the Salvador Dali Museum in Spain, and that was really inspiring to me because it's really up to the artist to create whatever they see and being able to validate that in yourself, that whatever comes out, whatever shows up is beautiful in and of itself and doesn't need to meet a specific purpose, a specific goal, doesn't even need to have a specific emotion attached when you see it. It can be just validating to be able to see and to witness what can be
Be
created, what is
created.
inside as well.
Tell me about the type of people you usually life coach. Is it a specific type of person or are you open to anyone?
I usually end up connecting with women more so, and my groups are focused on women. I feel that in society, it can be really masculine sometimes, and that feminine side can be really healing to connect with. So, for example, like when I was in high school, I was an artist. Like I sang karaoke when I was young. I was doing crazy makeup. I love fashion. But there was a certain time when I stopped doing that. And that for me was the feminine aspect of like creativity, of joy, of including singing and really expressive aspects that I stopped doing. And so I want to be able to help people come back to those while also helping them with their emotions and organizing so that life doesn't feel so overwhelming.
No, I love that. You talked a bit about how you did a lot of fashion in high school. Do you have a certain fashion or style that's incorporated with your life coaching and your art? Can you tell us a little bit about your personal style?
Sure. Yeah. It's changed a lot throughout the years. And I do actually attach it to astrology. When I was a teenager, I was a lot more in my Scorpio energy, which is my sun sign. And that was very punk. It was punk. I would go to zombie walks and I actually did special effects makeup sometimes. I would have ripped up jeans, sometimes bullet belts, played around with that a lot. But lately I've been really nostalgic, actually. So I have a little tie-dye shirt on right now. And I've really been leaning into the 90s and just like coming back to the butterflies and the cherries. Actually, I'm thinking of putting some patches on my jeans soon, and I really want to get into the creativity behind self expression outside of your body, right? And what I would love to include in some of my women's circles, and that's what I have been doing, is actually body painting. I find body painting and looking at even putting paint on your face and your body to express what you're feeling can be really healing. And then that way you can actually wash it off after as well. Because sometimes what's inside isn't always the prettiest either. And so it's like really validating to see it outside. Like, for example, I have had one where I've done it myself and I didn't have any idea of what I was going to be creating, but I ended up having like scars, just scars all over my body, like red scars, like there was like blood basically, and it felt so good to see it on the outside. It's like, wow, this is what I've been through. These are all the scars that I have from all the difficulties I've been through, and how good to be able to see them and then wash them off and leave them.
That's wonderful. I love how you talk about putting that paint on your body and showing everyone else what you've been through. And it's a reflection of what you're feeling in the moment, or maybe it's what you've felt in your past. Can you tell me a little more about astrology for fans who or listeners who do not know what it is or they haven't delved into it themselves?
Yeah, totally. Okay. So astrology is really interesting because sometimes people think that you have your one astrology sign and that's who you are and that's
Mhm.
it. But there's so much more to it because there's the full chart that you can look at. And
Mhm.
usually there's three signs. There's your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign.
Mhm.
And so these may make up like a larger portion of your personality. But what I like to work with and also with life coaching is there's 12 aspects, so 12 zodiac signs, and those are connected to 12 areas of life. So, for example, like I'm Scorpio, which is attached to the subconscious. It's
Mhm.
attached to difficult and dark emotions. It's attached to life and death, like really like crazy stuff. But then I also have a lot of Sagittarius, which is a sign that's attached to travel, to spirituality, to optimism, abundance, and all that. So what's awesome in astrology is you can explore and tap into those 12 aspects and see how they relate to you personally regarding the stars and when you were born.
What I'm hearing is that it's a misconception that you're only one sign and that all the 12 zodiac signs, you can incorporate different aspects of that into your life and what you want to accomplish or what your goals in life, essentially. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much play and room for growth and room for exploring in astrology. It's not boxing you, it's the opposite.
With your life coaching, how do you add astrology into it, and how do you tailor your life coaching experience to the individual?
Yeah, so it's a mix of both where we're able to dive into the 12 areas of life and see what's going on with them and how happy, how satisfied are you in this aspect of life? What are some goals that we can do to help you grow in these areas? But then also, I love looking at astrology because sometimes we miss certain aspects of our personalities, or we may miss certain energies that are at play. For example, it could be that your communication in astrology is in a placement that's really difficult. And so I would be able to see that, and maybe we could talk about it and see, is that something that does resonate? And then we can also look at the different signs in balancing that. So how can we take actually the opposite sign? Because every sign in astrology has an opposite sign. Okay, if this energy is really difficult, how can we go into this like balance?
Generally, what tends to be the areas of life you focus on with your clients, so with women?
So I focus a lot with personal development to begin with, the relationship with yourself.
Mhm.
That's going to be one of the most important
Mhm.
relationship that you have in your entire life. And so there is a lot of work that I love to do with self confidence, with belief in yourself, but also the beliefs that you do hold. So what was really interesting for me is that I was able to take 2 years out of society. I was able to look at it in a different lens of what's going on here. And I have, I believe, a better sense of a lot of our limiting beliefs and our doubts and the things that keep us small. And so I want to be able to explore that with people of what your dreams are. How can we get there? And what are the things that are stopping you that may not actually be your truth? This may be something that other people have said to you or that society has taken and believed as a rule, but how can we break through that?
And the women that you work with, do they tend to focus more on business development, or is it more personal development, as in relationships, maybe family?
Yeah, it ends up being more personal development, I would say, like focusing on being very well rounded in all those aspects of life. Because sometimes, depending on where we are in life, we put more focus onto certain things than others, which is great. And that helps us develop in that aspect. But can we also notice what is really going to help us feel like we are able to be organized and being able to accept where we are at the same time. It's, yeah, playing with both the dark and light for me, actually.
Mhm. I want to transition more into your art and your poetry. Can you tell us how you first got into that? I know you previously said it was when you were in high school and you used fashion as a form of self expression. But tell me more about how you started writing poetry, how you started painting portraits or surrealist art, was it? Or yes.
Sometimes, yeah, it can be very different depending on the day. Yeah, so it was interesting because I hadn't done much singing, much painting, much poetry almost ever after high school. And then when I was traveling, it really came little by little. I think it came maybe with someone having given me a really tiny, cute watercolor palette that I was able to travel with. And I found myself with a lot of time, and there's a lot of, beautiful landscapes out there. And just started. I think that also going to different art galleries while I was traveling was really inspiring to me. And so I was doing that kind of on my own for a little bit, rediscovering myself in that way. And then when I got to Bali, it all exploded there because there's so much creativity and there was a lot of like community and free events where I could explore writing,
Mhm.
I could explore poetry, I could explore singing. We explored improv and music. Being surrounded by people who were doing that similar kind of stuff, and also having been given kind of all these different inspirations of other artists was able to just ignite something that I didn't even know was there.
In regards to art, can you tell us some differences between what you've seen in North America, Canada, America, as compared to the rest of the world? And is it more encouraged? Are there different tendencies or what have you found?
It's crazy out there. There's just so much color, so much variety. I would say that color actually is like a big difference of what I've seen in the art. And it's this approach where it's a lot of lines and shapes. It's a lot of lines and shapes and colors. It's not necessarily, it's more abstract, right? It's not
Mhm.
necessarily one thing. And it's, for me, it's something that's really soothing to see to the eye sometimes and hearing probably to create where it's, I don't know, trusting the process and yeah, seeing where it goes. Sculptures. Yeah, it's what I can think of.
Okay, so now I want to ask, do you have any tips for people who are working on self-development and self-growth?
Yes, I would say that it can be done alone and you can explore yourself in such a beautiful way by just giving yourself the time to reflect
Mhm.
and to explore and to try new things. But also with a society that is so disconnected sometimes, being able to do it around people who are supporting you and who help you see that your issues, your thoughts, your feelings are not solely yours, that we all
Mhm.
share these. It can be really healing to have those relationships and to also see that other people struggle with the same things and that you're not alone.
You talk about taking time to reflect on yourself. What does that look like, like concretely? Is that writing in a journal every day? Is that maybe painting once a week or getting your music instruments out every once in a while?
Yeah, that's what's cool. Self reflection can be so different. And that's what I love to include in my work as well is like variety. So it's the idea of having structure where this is my time where I'm going to focus on myself. But I have like all of these millions of tools that I can
Mhm.
tap into. So some of them can be journaling, some of it can be meditation, creative writing. It can also mean retreat. And that can be really powerful for some people as well, where they actually do take that time to go to an Airbnb or something for
Mhm.
like a day, a week, like a weekend, whatever you can afford, but having some kind of retreat. For me, it ended up being like the Camino de Santiago, like a long walk.
Mhm.
And that can be done in a day as well. It can be a long walk in nature, right? So where are these places that we can do to like permit and to connect with what's inside and our intuition and our
Mhm.
inner wisdom in a way that we are able to let go of everything else that we've been told, everything else that other people are telling us, the things that are in our kind of daily surroundings, and yeah, tools that we can use within that. Right.
Yes, you've talked a lot about going out of the environment you're used to, going somewhere else. Does that put you in a different mental state, or how does that impact you, and why do you recommend it so much?
Yeah, absolute travel and putting yourself in also just creative spaces. You couldn't do it in your hometown where you open yourself up to a lot of different new, sometimes scary things. And so it just allows you to show alternative ways of life
Mhm.
because I do feel like there's this idea of how life should be and the path that we should be taking and like kind of steps in the roadmap. And then when you start traveling, you start seeing that people live in so many different ways. And what we think in the Western world is good or bad can be completely different
Mhm.
in another country. And so it really challenges your idea of what is like good and successful and what is bad, like what is good and what makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
On that note, I want to wrap up this episode. Is there anywhere our audience can find you? Do you have social media channels, a website?
Yeah, social media is perfect. So I go by Little Soul Sister and it would be lil.soul.sister. And I love to share stuff there. I really love to share from the heart. A lot of my stories will be like that. And I'm also so open to collaborators, like anyone who wants to do any events. If you want to do art together, that's what I'm wanting to create. Actually, I'm doing free events right now as well, right now for women. Although I'm hoping to also do some jamming or some improv as well. So you can also hit me up for that to connect with that creativity, connect with other women, connect with spirituality, astrology, tarot card, explore.
It was wonderful having you here. I want to say to the audience, if you want more episodes like this, please share it with a family member or a friend. And we hope to see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Hear the story.